Welcome back to another episode of 10 Minutes. I'm Isaiah, and that's George, and we appreciate your time, and we would appreciate your like and subscription if you enjoyed the video. And so let's get into today's topic. So there's a lot of great sayings and things in Ecclesiastes, and this is one that I think is important to discuss and can be confusing if we don't properly view it. So I'll read it. It's from chapter 1, verse 17 through 18. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. This is King Solomon. I perceived that this also is but a striving after wind. 18. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So there's a couple of things about this that I want to touch on. The thing is, in philosophical inquiry and philosophy, the beginning of wisdom for the philosopher is asking questions, basically, is wondering about things. And so when we think about knowledge, knowledge is something that we seek after because we enjoy knowing things and we wonder about things. But when we read Solomon here, he seems to be saying that knowing things causes much vexation or much frustration. And so I think that there's two different ways of understanding what he means here. Obviously, we could take it as we shouldn't know things because it causes frustration. Or the other thing is that alongside wondering about the way that things work, there's also a frustration in knowing those things and in knowing much. And one thing that we see in Scripture is that the one that knows much is going to be held to a different standard than the one who knows little. And so when you know more, there's more that you're responsible for in the eyes of God, and when it comes to what you tell people and the information you give, you're held to a higher standard because you have more things to worry about. And something that's similar to that is the fact that as knowledge increases, the knowledge of sin also has a possibility to increase. And so God himself has sadness over the state of the world, right? And over sin, and is angry towards sin even. Why is that? Because sin is so grievous, and because knowing of it causes one to be upset about it, right? It is a cause of frustration. And so with the knowledge that we have, the increase in knowledge that we have, we can see the impact of sin more precisely and more directly to see the impact of it. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's what Solomon is saying here, but I'm saying that that is an application of this principle of when we learn more and more, sometimes what comes with that is knowledge of sin and foolishness, and being able to see that. And one way that we see that affect the world is when you start to know more about the inner workings of the government and corruption, it becomes really frustrating. Look at what they're doing there. They're doing a lot of terrible things. And look at what people are doing with their finances, for example. Like, when you know how finances work, or how proper care of what you are over, when you know stuff about that, when you see somebody do it wrong, it gets frustrating. And one example that I've seen in my family is some people in my family are really into knowing about gun safety and stuff. And so when you see somebody on TV or anywhere mess it up, it's like, that's a big deal. And it's frustrating. And so I think that that's at least one way that we could apply it. Do you have any extra thoughts on this?
Yeah, couple things come to mind. We've heard the term ignorance is bliss, and you know, uh, it's better to be fat, dumb, and happy than to be knowledgeable and know all the facts. And what occurs to me is like, so if you're flying on an airplane and you contrast two people, there might be one person that is a very astute engineer, and he knows, or she knows, everything about that plane, everything about all its functions. And so they know everything that can go wrong
Yeah.
on a plane. And so for them, maybe a plane ride is nerve wracking because they are very concerned about every little bolt and rivet and wire and oil line. And so, whereas you have another person that knows nothing about aerodynamics and all the workings of flight in a jet plane, and they're just interested in getting from Philadelphia to, New York City, for example, and they're just having a great time, and they're having cocktails or champagne or Sprite and eating their three peanuts that they got for $5, and and they're happy. And so it seems that Solomon is focusing on a specific aspect of having knowledge. And one thing he doesn't mention there, although he gets to it in the later verses, is that uh, anything without God is empty. And so if we have, as God grants wisdom to people, yeah, the awareness of lack or mistakes in our lives or other lives or government is more readily seen by us, and so it can give us a sorrow. But with God, He's, what would you say, the great qualifier.
Well, he puts things in perspective.
Yeah, puts things in perspective. Only then, if we, some of the most miserable people on the planet are some of the most brilliant, and they're miserable because they have this brilliance and they know all these things, but it's like the Ecclesiastes writer says, all is vanity. It's vanity to them because they lack that relationship with God that brings the perspective and gives the joy and brings hope. Because both Pinchy and I, we love wisdom. We aren't declaring that we're all wise, but we
Right.
love wisdom, and we hope that wisdom is added to us, and that through our work and effort and through the grace of God. And so anyway, yeah, this is one of those statements that Solomon is making that um, it makes a person, when they hear it, go like, "What? I thought wisdom was good."
Right. Well, it's something that I just thought of is maybe one of the reasons why Solomon says elsewhere that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom is because if you are seeking wisdom without God, then you may get the understanding of, hey, gravity works this way. You throw something up, it comes down. That's wise. I mean, you learned a fact, and you know it now. But without God, none of this matters. And so the fear of God is the beginning of true wisdom. And so wisdom for its own sake is not necessarily um, the same for Solomon as, like, when we think about Plato and the way that he talks about it is he talks about wonder beginning wisdom, and Aristotle continues the thought as well of saying that we want to know something for its own sake and love that, and that that's one of the highest things. But the thing is, ultimately, it is more significant that we love God for His sake than we simply love knowing things for their own sake. Like, knowing that gravity works, yeah, it's cool. We learned something new. But again, the significance of things is only found when we have God and we have proper perspective. I don't know what you think about that, but
Well, yeah, it's he actually owns all things, and um, so we can really love a sunset and appreciate a sunset or a sunrise, and and we can love a good coffee. We could love a good friend. We could love a good husband or a good wife or a good child. And we can love all the good things that God gives and has created. And yet, if we don't have associate that with the giver of those gifts or the creator or the one who actually possesses them, then we're only really just enjoying the taste of the ice cream and not the wonder of the ice cream and he who made it. And so that's when creative things can become a trap for us. We have them in themselves, and so wisdom resides in God, complete wisdom, all wisdom, and so to really have wisdom would be to be possessed also by God, and
mhm.
so
Well, I
so
want to clarify something I said.
yeah,
Um, we we should love things for their own sake, but
right,
God is the one that can put everything in perspective. We can love our
hmm,
neighbors for their own sake, but also for the sake of God. It's both. It's not
yeah.
only one. All
So
right. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. I hope you have a good week.
Godspeed.
Have a good week.